Hey everyone, how is everyone doing? We've been chatting away while everyone can't listen to us, talking about some incriminating stuff, but now we have to behave. Let me switch up this thingy as well. Hey, there we are. Hey Lloyd. Hey Cairo.
Hello.
How are you guys doing?
Hello. Good and
Great.
yourself, buddy?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. This is a special stream today. Just having like 2 guests on here. It's gonna be awesome. All right. Well, welcome. Nice to see everyone. They actually have faces. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, this was a lie. It's all AI.
Yeah, it took us a while to get that right, but I think we nailed it. There's still some artifacts with Lloyd's because you can see the background, but yeah, we couldn't get the AI tweaked for that one right.
I didn't have time to model his background.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So for everyone that's tuning in today, we're just gonna be talking about like the team challenges, right? Just going over like all the team challenge results, all the amazing pieces that everyone has created, and just gonna be discussing it. Just I'm gonna be painting over the screen a little bit, and just share our thoughts on it, and then maybe also just talk about our perspectives on it, right? Like the organization of it. That would be kind of interesting to dive into that stuff too.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Lloyd, apparently you're hiding all your amiibos.
That is what I'm hiding. Yeah.
All right,
Been
cool.
figured out.
Yeah, should we start with like a general overview? Just I mean, we spent 3 hours talking about the team challenges yesterday already, so but it would be kind of nice to just share some general thoughts about like the challenges, how they went, and just like our thoughts about it, right? So if anyone wants to go first, do the honors.
Yeah, why not? I thought they went really well. The 3 results were stunning in the end. Like very different, almost like different focuses and stuff. But they all turned out really well in the end. I'm like super proud of what each team's managed to achieve, and they should be too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, just from my side as well, just seeing the results of it, right, and how they keep evolving, like challenge over challenge, is just so inspiring to see. And I think Lloyd is trying to hide how proud he is because he mentioned it yesterday. And I can definitely say where I'm proud too. Just like seeing all of this stuff come out from like only a month of work, right? Is so inspiring to see. And I mean, it's absolutely stunning. Just like the end results that came out of it is amazing. What about you, Cairo?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think like it scaled really well, going up from 2 teams last time to 5 this time. We did have a few discussions about source control and the frustrations that it caused many of you. So we're going to be doing our best to like look forward to like solutions for that for the future. But yeah, same as the other 2, like it turned out really well. You guys all put in like a lot of effort and it turned out really well. It was really impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd just like to offer a public apology on the source control. We'll do better next time, I promise.
Yeah, we read through the feedback yesterday, right? And I think we got it from all the burn git messages that are in there. So. But no, that's one of the things, right? Like it's one thing that we'll have to just keep in mind. Like if we even look at the first one, we use Google Drive for source control, right? So we're making steps in the right direction, that's for sure. We didn't realize that Git was gonna be such a hassle. Like we tested it before, but obviously when you scale these things up, like unforeseen consequences come with that, right? But all in all, I think it still went pretty good. It's unfortunate that from our side, it feels like we could have avoided like a lot of the what would you say, like a lot of the negativity, like in some of the last weeks or something, because it was so stressful for teams to get this thing done in like a month, but then source control failing or like stuff going wrong there, right? So yeah, I'm with Lloyd on this one. Just I apologize as well, but we'll fix it for the next one, hopefully. Well, if we're talking about that anyway, right? Just to give an update from our side, we're looking into different options at the moment. We still have to discuss it like way more in depth than we have done up until this point. But we're gonna be basically looking from the ground up and maybe look at Perforce, maybe look at other Git solutions. So that's something that we'll definitely look into. Oh, and Ben says that next time he'll be there to burn us all. So that's cool, nice. I guess.
Yeah,
that's what we like to hear.
That's fine.
Awesome.
And I think it's worth saying, being like open and honest, like cost is a factor in that. Like we would love to go with Perforce, but obviously there's a cost with that, so we need to investigate like servers and licenses and stuff like that, just so people are aware it's not just a case of like we're going, well, it's Git because of this reason or whatever, like, or Perforce because this is like lots of factors to take in, which is why it takes a little while to update and change what we're doing.
Yep.
Just so
you know, exactly,
people are aware of why we do what we do.
Yeah, and I can definitely say on that front, it's going to be a busy 2 months, I think. Like, completely switching it over and then, like, investigating, reaching out to companies as well, right? Because for Perforce...
prices and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, getting quotes and all that. Like, if we're being really transparent about it. But we'll see what we can do. Definitely, I think for the next one, we're going to have, a better solution than we have now.
Yeah,
even
definitely.
Though, yeah, Git wasn't the worst of all cases, but you live and you learn, right?
Definitely. You got to try it, like at least a couple of challenges, see if it was just a one-off or whatever. But 2 challenges, we can see it's not working, so we need to change things up.
Exactly. Yeah, and also from our side, we need to be... We're really thinking about scaling this up too, right? Because that's another thing that I wanted to bring up, is that we had to kind of close it down at like 30 people for this one, because we were kind of unsure how well it would scale and if we would have the time to implement all the new changes that we were going to do. Like the initial meeting, which was pretty good, I think. And if we could scale that, if that was a thing that worked, that is something that we'll have to also keep in mind for the next one. Because... yeah, we talked about this yesterday. We don't wanna cut it off at like 30 people. We want everyone to be able to join the challenge if they want to.
Yeah, definitely. And also all the solutions we're looking at, we have to make sure that they're also scalable as well. So everything we do has to keep that in mind.
Definitely.
Exactly.
And all this comes from your feedback that you put back in the form. So if you haven't filled it out, or if you know your teammates haven't filled it out, get them to fill it out.
Yep.
Because it does genuinely, we do go through it, and it genuinely does help us to identify what we should be improving and stuff.
100%. That's really good to iterate that. I mean, yesterday was the first meeting that we did about that, right? There's probably going to be more meetings, especially for source control, as I mentioned before. And it's something that we really care about, like all the feedback that everyone has put in. And just we take it all to heart and see if we can improve it going forward. So, yeah, we appreciate all the feedback that has been in there already. And yeah, like Lloyd said, if you haven't done it yet, just fill it in. It helps us greatly. Do it.
Good.
All right, cool. Should we dive into some of the individual teams and like what they introduced?
Let's do it.
Yeah, so first we have Team 2. They made the Endeavor, which is I mean, just a stunning scene, right? Like in the beginning, I have to be honest about this. I was a little bit worried about just the scale and how open it was. But just looking at the end result, it looks really great, right? I mean, we only have 3 pictures here. There's lots more. If you're interested, you can click on especially Scott's portfolio, and I think Adam has it on there as well. There's a lot of stuff that went into this. So
yeah, definitely. And if you want to see the individual props breakdown, if you go through all the portfolios, I think most of them are broke down the props they did on each of their portfolios as well. So if you really want to see how certain things were made or close-ups and stuff.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, do we just want to look at like this screen, for example? Just take this one. And
I mean, first of all, great branding use of Beyondextent in there. Have to mention that. Now we can we just zoom in on that sign and it's just free promotional material.
Well, I think you two know how many things there are in this picture, right? Like how many Easter eggs?
Yeah.
But I have no idea. I have a couple of them, but I don't know. Like
my favorite is just above the word the Endeavor. They've actually got like BE214 or something.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Which is the month, obviously, the challenge took part in.
Yeah, because
it's actually great.
Got that one here, and then the BE stuff is right here, right? We got like
I didn't even see that one on the wing there.
They're everywhere. They're actually everywhere.
And I think I know from like seeing the assets up close that they're on these. Let me just have a look. Like these speeder bikes, they have flags. They also have like the Beyondextent logo on it. But there's loads of them, right? Like there's like a bunch of decals like all over the place here.
Indeed, Beyondextent Corporation.
They've used a lot of decals, like graffiti and everything in the scene. Like I'd actually be interested to find out, like, look at their atlases and see how dense they were. Because I've looked around at the scene and I haven't seen like many repeating assets. Well, not assets, but decals in that case. So really good use of them.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what makes it feel like really like cohesive and lived in is the like almost everything's got a little bit of graffiti on. It sort of ties it all together quite well. We're talking a bit more arty.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And also just like for blending purposes, right? Having like the dirt here blend with like the dirt decal here.
Yes.
It's super nice. Like you guys already mentioned, like just having like decals on these pieces. Always really nice to see that too. Yeah, there's like just like really great use of like all the decals, right? Should we zoom out and just have a look at just the overall picture first before we dive into like, more of the details?
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that personally stands out to me is, I mean, it has to be said, right? Like it is a really big project, but just the depth of the scene, like all these layers that we have going on here, like the
really nice.
The focus and like the composition here, just really nice that we have like this open space here, and then contrast it with this like nice bulky shape of like this spaceship.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Also,
there is just so many layers. You've got like this really near foreground with the grass, and then you've got like your main area with the ship and dirt in it, and then you've got like this like first background layer where it's still all in detail, and then you've got those 2 or 3 like sort of faded out background layers. It really creates this like great sense of like depth and like scale of the scene, that this is like a massive world that it's included in. I think it's really smart use of assets, because most of it, if you look at it, is just like a couple of rocks that are just reused over and over again. It's really smart use of assets to create that like gigantic world feeling.
Yep, exactly.
And also, you can't like, I know it's obviously not a huge ton of rocks, but they've done it very well so that you can't really see similar silhouettes or like faces to the rocks that like might pop up to the eye as being repeating, and I can't really see any of that here, so they did it really well. I mean, just from like a composition standpoint, they like really ticked all the boxes here. You've got like Lloyd said, like the foreground with the plants, the midground, and then the background with all the rocks. So if you were looking at this from like a scene depth perspective, it looks really good. As well as the fact that I think it was Scott who shared it. Like they did the whole golden ratio leading up from like the top right corner into that entranceway of the ship, which I wouldn't have ever spotted, but I'm sure it's one of the reasons that it just looks compositionally sound.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I think that's Dylan has just said the background is all one rock.
Yep.
Oh,
So
really?
it just shows
like,
how you can really reuse. Like you don't have to create tons and tons of assets to fill out your world if you're smart with them. Like you can get a lot of use out of one thing.
100%.
Really good job.
Yeah, and also the thing that I like is just like all like this compositional line here, like sort of reinforces like these lines going up here, right? Like this is like a really nice use of just like open space where you have like the speeder bikes and like other elements just all pointing towards like this core, which is like super nicely done. Also it's usually in like small stuff, right? Like just having this like foreground element that we just talked about, just having this blocker of like open space and your eye almost hits like this bump and then goes up. And the same here, like if we're talking about the blue line here, like just a well-defined edge to like the midground where you can see that there's like a nice contrast between the layers, and that's kind of keeping your eye in this zone here, which is super nice.
It's also really impressive that the majority of this like midground is actually like just their landscape material. So I think like they nailed the mud where it doesn't look too repetitive, and I mean there's literally no assets on the ground there besides the speeders to break it up, so that you have that much empty space and it still looks, you know, as cohesive as the rest of the scene is. It's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, also what's doing like a really great job here is just color contrast too, right? Like you have like all the earthly colors like on the landscape here. So this green area is all like just browns and greens, and then you have like this nice contrast with just like really bright like standoff colors just pulling your eye in immediately. That's definitely also reinforcing the composition that we were talking about before, just really helping that.
Yeah. It's also nice that they got the contrast of like the really straight, like man-made sci-fi shapes contrasting with the natural elements, and then the colors are doing the same thing as well.
Yep, exactly.
It's just really good compositional use. Everything is like almost designed that way, like the shapes, the lines, the colors, everything is drawing you to that focus while still keeping everything else looking really good and consistent outside the focus area.
Yep. Yeah, and this is also why it's really important to do like a proper block out and to have this all sort of established in the beginning. It obviously changes a little bit over time. We can kind of we saw that in the beginning that the core elements were here, but it's been refined over time where there haven't been like any major changes to the composition, which is really nice because in the beginning you could already tell or like feel that the composition was solid.
I think Ben Black just asked how much planning went into the composition. If you click on one of their links, maybe Scott's or Adam's, they've actually got a breakdown, like progress shots, GIF thing, so you can actually see how much it changed. I don't think it changed that much, apart from maybe camera angles slightly and stuff like that.
Yeah, quick look, right?
I think when we had that first initial meeting, like the overall scene composition, especially that main shot, didn't change too much, but we did I think we advised them to like take away one of the rooms inside the ship, but so I think they closed that up at the bar on the left hand side there. But I mean, then at the end they had the time to go back in and add all the like the hydroponics tanks to the interior and stuff. It looks really good.
No GIF yet? That's all right. I mean, you guys were pretty busy at the end of in the challenge, right? So that's all good.
Nice,
just like a nice, nice
sculpts.
Exactly, and also like just like nice detail on these plants too. You can see like
The-
all this detail. Like we were just talking about like the big picture, right? But there's like a lot of stuff that went into this. Like the interiors are like fleshed out. There's like trash and clutter. Like all this stuff is, yeah, most of the stuff is moving as well, right? Like you have like the futuristic barbecue. Also, just a
Ooh,
foam.
that's the first time I've seen that water. That water foam is really cool. Hadn't seen that
Yeah,
before.
right. Looks really nice.
Damn. And I wanted to say there's one shot, I haven't seen it yet today, but there's one shot where it's like from inside the bar looking out. So sort of towards like the back of the main shot. And I thought that was really cool because like most of the time with these challenges and what we like encourage is that you always have just like focus on your main shot and don't worry about what's in the background. But the fact that they could completely rotate the camera basically 180 and we could still see that it looked that good. It's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. These shots are also...
I want to walk around in this bar area. It is so cool.
I think I should point out that, like, although it seems like there's tons and tons of detail, like even like salvage parts, they were super smart with how they used it. Like, so I think Christian made that speeder, and then he gave them the model, and they literally just like ripped the big pieces out of the model and reused them everywhere. So like they weren't making lots of unique assets all the time. They were just reusing what they had. So they like ripped the speeder apart into its springs and bolts and whatever else, all the various bits, and spread them around. So like it was really smart use. It was that, you know, work smarter, not harder, although there was definitely lots of hard work going on. It was definitely like work smarter to get sort of a scale of this scene together.
Yeah,
lots of reuse, lots of stuff.
Sorry. Also, what I'm noticing now is like a nice level of consistency among the assets. Like it looks like, I don't know if one person did do like trims and materials and stuff, but like the metals all look fairly consistent. The rust colors and stuff like that, they all feel made to go into the same scene. Look like they could have been made by one person. So that's always good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we can see that here, right? Like the speeder. I don't know if we have like a different shot for one of the speeders, like up close. Yeah, just like Lloyd said, like just reusing parts of that speeder. Just here, for example, like this is like the backside of one of the speeders, but it just ripped it off and put it on the front to make it look like it's something different. And that is something you have to do in like a monthly challenge like this, right? You have to think about making pieces that are just so highly reusable that you can almost tear it apart, make like some clutter, and then just like hook it into like the storytelling. Just have like this scrapyard feeling just helps with that so much, right? Because it's so forgivable with like the assets that you put into it.
And I think once you layer up the decals and the vertex paint and stuff, it's really hard to tell that it is just using the same stuff. Because I think most of the bar area, apart from obviously the unique like grill and stuff, like all the seats, the tables, the bar area, all uses just one trim. Like most of the assets in the level, I think, use just one trim. All the metallic assets anyway. So it's just super clever to like get that scale in.
Yeah, exactly. Like a thing that I wanted to point out with this shot is this is something that I talked about in like weekly blog posts as well. Is just having like a rule of thirds where you have like a big bulky shape here, and then you have like smaller pieces here, and then you have like small clutter on the floor, which always does such a good job of just like visually like indicating like it's not just like a bulky shape that's just on the landscape. These elements here, they are embedding this bigger shape into the landscape itself, and they give it like a gradient going to the landscape, which is always really good to see.
Definitely.
Yeah,
very
and
smart.
Then like Dylan mentions in the chat, just having like these bits of graffiti here, and like here they do such a really good job of just like embedding everything within the whole scene. Like it makes the whole thing consistent. Like we can see that here, for example. So nice.
Just the bright colors are such a nice contrast. I mean, this scene would have been like 20 or 30% worse without all the decals. Like it makes such a difference.
Yeah, brings a little bit colour to something that is otherwise very dark grey, brown, green.
Exactly.
Yep.
I do want to just shout out because it makes such a lovely bit to the overall shot. Is the foliage that Dylan made is absolutely standout.
Yeah, it's really good.
Like you can appreciate it a little bit in the first shot, but it's blurred. But if you want to go check,
like
you
in
can
this
see
shot,
it
right?
just there. Yeah, it's beautiful. The foliage isn't just like ties it all like that. Them sort of like elements together.
This shot, like you can see, there's like a perfect amount of like subsurface. I saw like Scott was doing like a night shot for this, and like it all looked really good. And I think that's like a really good sign for foliage, especially like if it looks good in a lot of different lighting situations. It's solid.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, just
Lots of like storytelling, like not obvious or important storytelling. Just like there's a table like on the left that we just went past, like set up next to the speeder and stuff, because someone would probably sit next to the speeder when they were working. Like it's barely in shot, like and there's like a little chair next to things, right? And yeah, it's like to the left of where we are now, and there's just this table with a few bottles and stuff on. You barely even see it, but it like, and I'm pretty sure like it, because you look at it for such a small amount of time, it's like just a duplicated table or just assets that are used the other way, but your eye doesn't pick up on the fact it's just repeated assets, but it makes the level feel like a lot more lived in. The fact that there's like these things that make sense, so like a table next to the work area and stuff like that.
Just visually, right? Like having the connections coming from like this big generator looking thing, connection through here, having a connection here, which just from that visual connection you can tell that this is going up and down, or like this is moving. Just really nice, like doing stuff like that in your scene, just having things connect, and then having, like Lloyd was mentioning too, having like a little storage area where they have like spare parts. There's like spare parts here, just like visually indicating that they've been working on this, but it's like it's been a work in progress for a bit, so they don't really care about it that much. It's just really nice done.
Just adds all this sort of like life to the level, rather than just being like a generator with something next to it. Yeah, super cool.
Exactly. And then we have like this whole interior part, which in the beginning we
told them not to do.
not to do. But I mean, they really went above and beyond on this, and then they just opened it back up and they dressed this entire space. I think, who was it? Like, I think Adam mentioned it in the chat that the hydroponics, like, they came about like the last day or something.
Yeah.
Let me just have a quick look.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Also, like really nice hard surface work as well. Like good use of trims. There was a cool little dolly zoom in that interior there. Might be one here as well. A little bit. I didn't even notice the hole in the floor from the other shots. That's cool. I suppose that's where all the light's coming from at the bottom. There's just like so much to unpack here. I see something new every time I look at like every single shot.
Indeed, there's just so much detail in it, and like a lot of it's placed like sensibly. Like there's more trash around the bar or the tables or whatever, which leaves like that sort of creates that 70-30 rule or whatever you want to call it. Like, so there's lots of like noise and clutter around the edge, but around the middle there's still quite flat or relatively plain open spaces in the middle for your eye to rest and stuff like that. So following the rules of life kind of means you end up with really nice composition.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's also an interesting point, right? You have to kind of think about how you would live or like would go about working in this space where you have like cables going through like the most important things, but there's still like room left for you to walk on the floor and all that kind of stuff, right? So one thing that I do want to mention, and this is just an amazing piece, right? But they spent a fuck ton of time on it too, and that has to be said, right?
Yeah, like we went through it last night, and we're talking like a few, like over 300 hours in a month of time.
We did an estimation, and I think it was per person on the Steam they spent
So
like
5 people.
2.6 hours a day working every day for a full month. So just to give you like an indication, and this is like an average between the team, right? This is not done like not everyone pushed. It wasn't divided equally. Like some people did more than other people, well, way more, which is fine because that's also something that we want to encourage with the challenge, right? But it just has to be said that there's like a lot of time that went into this. It's a great result,
Yeah.
but it
I think
definitely
it's
comes
just to make people aware that if you join the challenge, don't expect to create something as big as this. Like, this is super ambitious, and yeah, it was like, I don't know, 300 to 400 hours worth of work. It's like,
Yep.
it's pretty crazy amount of time
Yeah,
that was
and
put into this. So
that's exactly it, right? Like, I don't want to take away from like the end result because it is damn stunning, and it deserves to be there. But yeah, we don't want, like, for people that are just interested in like potentially joining the future challenges, we have to say that this is by far probably like well, from our estimates and what we could tell, right? We don't have all the information on this. Is that this is by far the team that spent the most time on it. So
yeah,
just take that into account.
just seeing what Loading Artist said, that's ambitious and refusing to call anything. Actually, this team followed our advice, kind of,
Yeah.
because we told them to cut out basically the interior and just put a big flat piece with like a door in it, so to imply there was an inside. And when they were working, they started working on the outside first, so that they would have a scene finished. And then sort of when they start to realise sort of a couple of weeks in that they had more time, they opened it up into, I think there was just a top floor to begin with. Some stairs on the top floor, which had a few beds in it. And then like sort of with a week to go, they decided they want a bottom floor as well. So that's like how we encourage people to work as well, is start small. And then if you realise you've got more time, you can add more and more stuff into it as you go along. Rather than start big and then have to crunch to try and achieve just your single goal. So yeah,
I like what Dylan said in the chat. Sorry, honey, Beyondextent needs me.
yeah. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yep, I think that's a good one.
It's going to be a very long stream if we talk for so long about all of them.
Yeah, I know, but that's a good thing.
They're
right?
so
like
good. But
it's so exciting to see all the end results. Like it's just
so
amazing.
good.
This is Team 3. You can see a lot of people that were involved with this one. If you want to check this out for yourself, I mean, the link is here. I'll put it in the chat too if you're thinking about checking it out yourself. So yeah, let's have a look here. Cool. This comes with a caveat because the team is still working on this one. So they're still tweaking like a lot of stuff. I think the main focus is like getting a better character in, and then probably polishing up like how it looks visually, especially around the main focal point. So this is a result from just when we have like the end of the challenge, right? So take that into account. But yeah, I'll just open up with this. The thing that I like about this is just like the bold use of colors. I like the colors happening here, like especially on the focal point itself. Like I like this kind of area where it's like purples and blues, and then you have like the red coming out of here. It looks really nice, and also
definitely it's the same as last time, isn't it? Like creating that focal point through color, like that you've got the greens and the blues and the cold colors around the edges, and then you've got nice like warm colors in the middle, like for your focal point.
And this scene would have been really easy to, like, if someone said to you, hey, we're making a house in a swamp, like people are going to think of the cool colors, and then they're going to think, okay, like maybe fires and stuff. It would have been really easy for this team to just go that way, but I like that they went with the bolder colors because it makes it look very different from your average swamp scene.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's like you said, right? Like there's a stereotypical image that we have from like, oh, it's like a shack in a swamp, and there's automatically like braziers or like fire happening there. Just like, yeah, really really nice use and like bold use of colors. It's a fairly straightforward composition. Doesn't mean it's bad though. I like it. Like just having this big visual blocker here really helps with the focus of just like, look, this is where you need to look here. If we didn't have like a big volume blocking this, it might have been different. Same with this element, by the way. Like it just keeps your eye like within the picture a little bit, which is really nice.
And also not just the colors of the lighting as well. Like they made use of like there's lots of variations of colors in the wood and the corrugated metal, the sheet metal, all of that. So like really works well.
Yeah, especially this stands out, right? There's just the differences in color. It's really nice. Just like
I saw those. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I saw there was like a nice bit of kit bashing they were doing at the end, just like with all the sheet metal and like different pieces they had around the scene to make up all the doors and the scaffolding and stuff. It's really cool. Yeah, they did a good job of making everything look quite like rickety and.
And again, with the channels like this, right? Like a lot of reuse just within like the assets. So. You hinted at it earlier, Cairo. It's just like they had these pipes. They were just like, oh, let's just make them like handlebars for like the door or something, right? Not thinking about like making a bespoke like handle for the door, but just like reusing pipes that they already had.
Yep.
It's like a whole bunch of wood, and you can see that being reused throughout the entire structure, right? Just like really clever use of just starting with the minimal and just building an entire kit around that really just helps with these scenes. Because then, if we're thinking about the narrative, right? At some point we probably didn't have ladders here, but it's so easy to add ladders because you have all the planks here anyway. So just like cobble stuff together, make a ladder, make like a shorter ladder, and then like this visual thing is like solved, right, from like a logic perspective. You can just like climb up here, check out stuff on the roof, do like repairs on the engines. Yep.
All the scaffolding and stuff is like, I think, a few pieces of wood plus like the knot material, like the bit that's holding it together. And it's just, they just created it like several variations of it and then spread that all across the scene, flipped it around. Like all the wood and metal is like I don't know, I'd say a dozen assets. And then they've just combined it and reused it all over the scene. It's really clever use of reusing assets and getting the most out of them to really like build up this world in a month. I don't think we can emphasize that enough. Is that it is only a month of production time, and you have to work smart if you want these more like epic scaled things looking scenes.
Exactly. I was just looking at this shot and I never noticed like just the bold use of colors, right? You have like this sort of blue tone coming from this light, like lighting up this entire area, but then you have like a greenish, like ominous kind of light coming from inside, which is just, I like that. I like it. I like the boldness of like the color use in this, just like not being afraid to use it.
I mean, this is pretty much what we were saying to Team 2 when they got started. When we advised that they scale down a bit, we were like, just open the door a little bit, like hint at the environment inside, but don't spend all that time building it. So this does that really well. Like we can sort of see the interior. It looks pretty detailed, but you're never going to see inside. So it's like a perfect use of time.
Exactly. Yeah. Again. Something that I've been thinking about with this shot, something that I personally think, obviously talking about the month time, but if they want to do something, I would probably add like silhouettes in the background. That's what.
Yeah, I think I was going to suggest that as well.
Because just having, I don't know, if we think about a swamp, like those, like what are they called? Like weeping willow trees or something that have like foliage like draping down from them. That could be like really nice just filler for like the background where you have like visual blockers again, right? Like clumps of trees, and then just have them parallax behind each other so you create this depth. Just yeah, and if we talk about that, you can quickly fill it up, and it doesn't have to be detailed at all, right? You're just thinking about just filling up like a couple of props or like a couple of spaces with just, I don't know, some trees that you can get from like the speed tree store or whatever you can find them, right? There's probably like some really simple looking trees from like the Unreal Engine marketplace that are free. Just drop them in there. And you can create like this visual layering that we saw from Team 2 as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
even if
definitely
you're
a nice touch.
if you're
Sorry.
talking about my bad, if you're talking about like reusing stuff in the scene and not having to like do trees or whatever, like they've got a plane wing, I assume it is there. The other plane wing could be on the left side, sort of at like a diagonal line, just create some silhouettes. They've got all those wood pieces, so they could have like wreckage and stuff. But yeah, I agree about the silhouettes in the background.
Yeah, I was thinking you're gonna call this out. Like this sphere, that would be actually like a nice silhouette to have in the background.
Yeah, that as well. Watchtowers
like
could also do that.
Yeah. Because then you're almost creating this feeling of like, it's not just like one thing in the swamp, but it's like connecting, right? There's like connecting stops that you have to follow. Almost like what was that scene in Lord of the Rings where you have to follow the torches to get through the swamp? I think it might have been in the first movie or something. But it's basically like you have to follow these structures to get through the swamp safely, because if you deviate, there might be like some dangers like deeper in the swamp. Could be like a nice story to hint at or something. Yeah, cool.
No, definitely, it's cool, and like these are like minor points because we know, like we can see everything, can't we? As like admin, community builders and stuff. That it was a time thing rather than anything else. I'm sure they were planning to put trees in the background and stuff like that. So they're like, we're just giving them some feedback now and stuff like that. But I know it was something they wanted to do. But time, they've got to be like, I don't know what the word is. Pragmatic with their time, like they've got to decide what gets cut and what stays. And the trees are a nice touch, but they definitely don't make the scene, do they? So
yeah.
So
yep, exactly. We got Ben helping us out here with calling it Spanish moss. I think those are like the hanging moss thingies that could really help out with like just the scary haunted feeling of this. And then Dylan is coming in as well with some dark, blurry silhouettes. Exactly. It doesn't have to be much, right? Because it's going to be like a background element. It could even be just like an alpha card, just like a 2D alpha card. If you're going to use it far in the distance anyway.
And with the amounts of fog that they have, it probably would need to be untextured as well.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, like Cairo mentioned as well, like you have all these cool elements in the scene already. So yeah, you could try scattering them in like the distance as well. Could be cool.
really good job.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
This team had some source control issues, and I'm super impressed that they still managed to push through and get this finished despite those. That I know they lost like several hours worth of work at one point, and they had to redo all that, which is obviously in the state of a month is quite a lot of time. So the fact they managed to push through and get it all done is like super proud of them, and like they did a really good job despite all the problems and stuff like that. So well done everyone on team 3.
Exactly. Like it's important to iterate that, right? Like even if we give feedback, like again, I'm also just super impressed with like all the stuff that has been created for this environment. Like just to reiterate, like really smart use of like a bunch of elements, which is definitely what we encourage for like the monthly challenge, and just yeah, just like a lot of variation in this one, with just like simple reuse, right? Just like the
Exactly.
lighting, and like how stuff gets reflected on these wooden planks, for example, is just really nice. And that also takes like a bunch of time, right? Like just finding like good lighting, finding like how to get. I know that I think it was Lewis that had some issues. Was it Lewis? Let me double check. Yeah, I think he was having some issues with just like having black planes with the lighting, and that, if you just think about that, it's such a simple issue, right? I didn't know how it got solved in the end, but that can already take like a couple of hours. Like Lloyd said, a couple of hours inside of like a monthly challenge is like a lot of time. So again, congratulations, and like absolutely amazing end result.
Yeah, definitely.
Well done.
Most people work, so a couple of hours is like an entire evening. That's one day of the challenge gone.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
That's-
Dylan says the same thing. Controls, colors, compositions, effective reuse of assets, all great. Exactly.
Yeah.
100% agree.
The roughness on those planks is beautiful when the light captures it right.
Oh, this
Yeah,
shot.
that's good.
Yeah.
So good. I also like this spot where like the shadow from the ladder like accentuates the curve. So good.
Yeah.
Man. So good.
I also think they used like mist cards really well, really effectively. Like I'm sure that's just alpha cards on the propeller thing there, but it really adds a lot to the way it catches the lights and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
in
mean
front
like?
of the yeah.
Oh yeah, there.
So let's zoom in on this bad boy again.
Because if you didn't have that, it wouldn't be nearly as atmospheric.
Exactly. Yeah, that's nice to point out. And I missed that actually. I think for me it was more like a subconscious thing, right? You don't pick it up at first, but then if you start looking into it, those things really add a lot.
They really sell it, help like set it into the scene, make it feel like it's like part of the scene and not just a 3D object sitting in a 3D scene. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Really helps ground those tires in the base of the house structure as well. Sort of that like swampy mist. Looks really cool.
Yeah, it's really good. It's these little things that your eyes sort of glance over. Is because they feel so normal. Is what makes a scene feel good. At least when you're aiming for a more realistic scene, anyway. It's these little things that your eyes effectively ignore are what makes it feel good. They all say, don't they? The art of visual effects is not being noticed.
Exactly. So. All right, awesome job. Yeah, so that was Team 3, right? So again, if you want to check this out, there's a link in the chat if you want to do so. Amazing job to everyone on the team. Congratulations. And then final team, we have the Stylized team. I think they posted some stuff online, right? Because I really want to look at the video. Yeah, there we go. Let's just take this in for a sec. Card is so beautiful.
Our little bubbles.
Nice. I hadn't seen the bubbles before. Those are cool. I think I said this when they posted this video. I think it was Angelo, and I said I really like the strong depth of field because it makes things sort of have like a miniature kind of feel, like set miniatures, and I think that adds a little something. I think it looks cool.
Yep, 100%
cool
agree. It's if you're interested in that, tilt shift photography is like a really interesting thing to look into because they use like a heavy depth of field to make like cities look like they're miniatures. So I was thinking about like the terminology of it, but I couldn't get to it, and then I just realized it yesterday or something. But yeah, I do like it too. It has this. In the beginning, I gotta be honest, I wasn't really a big fan of the bigger, like the heavy depth of field. But if you take it into how it's set within the scene and how it's used and like the kind of mood that it's trying to convey, it actually nails what it's trying to do. So I definitely changed my opinion on that. It's
Yeah.
really nice use.
Also, I'm noticing like really nice blending of these assets. Like, look at these rocks and that vase, like in the sand. Like, I don't know if they set up like RVT blending or something, but like, you don't have many harsh lines except where they wanted them. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Did Angelo do like a breakdown of this?
I think he did.
I think he was going to. I don't know if he's got around.
Oh,
to
look at this!
progress skip.
Oh yeah!
This is another one where it could have gone a completely different way with like, if you think about stereotypical desert colors, it's like sort of more towards the browns and oranges near the beginning. And I think as soon as you see that change where the greens and the blues get added in, it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, again, just like really bold use of colors, right? Because especially when you see it change, it adds so much depth to the picture. Where you have like greens coming in, which is like a really bold statement for like a desert scene, right? Really great use of that. Let's have a look here. Yeah, I think for the blending, I think on his blog. Thanks for helping us out here, chat. Let's have a look. Yeah,
There you
look at
go.
this.
Nice. Yeah, it really adds so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a really technical bit of like setting stuff in the scene, rather than like adding like little fog cards. It's a technical solution to making things like they've been set and blended into the scene for a long time.
But it does so much, right? Because you really get this additional layer just from this little text setup, where this was like something that people used to travel to like a lot of the time, but now it's less frequently traveled. So like the dust is gathering, like the sand is gathering on the stones and all that. And it also just helps with like blending everything together, right? It's so good.
Yeah.
Like when you have a good like blending solution inside your environments, like with all these like different parameters like Angelo's set up and whoever else it was that did it, like it just makes placing your assets so much easier, because then you don't have to worry about like, is it blending correctly here? How is it looking over here? Because it's just going to look good anyway.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that I noticed here is, this is a small thing, right? But just like smart use of textures. Because we can see that this is like a unique pillar here. It's like the sides are textured. This probably has like a nice cap on it, like in its full state. But then they wanted to have like a broken pillar too. So what I think they did is the cap is actually this texture.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I noticed it. I noticed it in the roughness, but it's a thing that gets used in games all the time, right? Just slap a tileable on like these broken ends, just add a bit more geometry in it. But it's so good, like smart use of just like textures and like reuse.
And then also with like these like blend fall-offs that Angelo's playing with here, like how you can see how the sand goes up and down that pillar, like even that just helps everything feel cohesive and sandy. You don't have to worry about like functions to get sand on top of everything, because your landscape's doing it all.
Oh,
Unreal
I think
Engine's so powerful.
yeah, exactly. We got Sail OMKD. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. But yeah, it's exactly how they did it apparently. Just having like a tileable texture on it, which is really good. So the pillar sides are a trim, and then the same is reused on the cap and the slabs. Nice.
Clever.
Smart use.
So that could be an interesting read for everyone if they want to have a look at how he's done it and stuff. He's obviously done a good breakdown for it.
Exactly. Oh, it's Sasho. Hey, Sasho. Yeah, thanks for that, man. That's a really clever use of just textures. Oh, this is awesome, actually. Just like a full breakdown of it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Holy tree.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Could we look at Munjo's The Wagon that he did? Because I'd like to see, I think he had a breakdown of The Wagon. I'd like to see it in more detail.
Yay. Just go to his profile. Let's just open it up. Doo-doo-doo.
Yeah,
Is
nice.
there something else?
I think it's just that one. Yeah, really
Yeah.
cool.
Really nice.
Nice wood sculpts.
It's such a good focus of the scene, right? The thing that I like about this is, again, we mentioned this in every piece, but it's just color contrast. Like, this blue in like a desert scene pulls so much attention to it, which just really helps with the overall composition because it's always going to stand out from a distance. Which is really nice.
And there's nice little storytelling elements in there, like the wheels all like messed up. That front wheel, it looks flat at the bottom and stuff to obviously sort of say that this quite clearly doesn't move very often, sort of thing. And
that's really
So also
important with
handles.
like Stylized, right? It's just having like an interesting silhouette and like making the most of a silhouette. Like even these edges
Yeah.
here, you could have
Those are
them
really
like as a straight piece, but this adds so much depth to like just a roof like this, where you have like offsets and like insets. Really good use of geometry there.
And everything is just like noticeably warped. Like there's no like perfect straight edges anywhere. I mean, like there's obviously like poly like counter limits and stuff like that, but like there's no like laser lines anywhere where your eyes just go straight to it and it looks a little bit unnatural. The windows are curved. Everything just looks really good.
Yep.
yeah, definitely.
Exactly. And I think this is also a good example of what we were talking about yesterday, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, this was the only thing that Munjo focused on, which is perfectly fine. But that is just like a really good indication of just picking like something that's relatively small. I know that this is kind of like a big prop and there's like a lot of love that went into it. But compared to being worried about like an entire scene, this is just like a really good focus point and just saying like, look, I'll own this. Just let me handle the focal point of the scene, and then you guys can go crazy with like all the other props.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
all those
definitely.
other props being like placed on top of and around this that also really add to like the character with like the cauldrons with all the bubbles and the stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good use of teamwork between assets.
Exactly. It's this shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Empty Wagon turns into like good storytelling area with just like that little bit of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't
In the
even
way-
realize, like, my eye didn't even notice the first time that, like, those things that were on the shelf, and obviously not an exact duplication, but are basically the duplication of the floor. Like, sometimes people get really hung up about making everything unique. Like, oh, we need lots of unique things. We can't just repeat them. Like, literally, the cauldron's there, and it's like literally 2 feet away, but your eye doesn't really like go, oh, that's just duplicated. Like, so that's like getting more out of your assets, like filling out that sort of scene with just reusing those assets. Your eyes look over so many things, and as long as there's like a hint of detail there, your eyes like, oh, there's some potions on there. Right, what's next? So clever use of assets again to fill out the world. I think that's used throughout this scene. There's lots of like bags of grain and fruit throughout the scene in other places and stuff like that.
I wonder if there's any of those prop breakdowns, maybe on Nikita or Edrix, or those very nice to see up close.
Let's have a look. So, that is actually. Oh, we have some props here. Some tilables. This is looking really nice.
That's a nice tileable. Yeah, I really like that stone. Sounds cool.
Yeah, like technically, obviously you spent your time making this look good, right? But technically these are relatively simple in just the style, right? But they add so much to a scene. Like, it's so nice to have opportunities of like blending them together, and then having like, especially if you have like a thing set up like the RVT and just having them blend together with like nice fall offs, or just like vertex paint or the terrain blending that you do right in Unreal. It's so nice to have like options
So
like
nice.
this.
A nice little
Nice little
textures.
carpets. It's almost a shame, and this is what I've been thinking about this scene, is that there is so much hidden inside of these tents. Like we kind of know that there's like a lot of stuff here, right? But you can't really see it. I'll open this up for everyone. There's like lots of like jars and like pots and like sleeping bags. There's maybe that would have been cool if you could this was the thing that I was thinking when I looked at this end result, is that maybe it would have been nice to have a little bit of an expansion here right beside the cart, have like another tent like sort of draped here, then have like a sleeping bag on the floor with some extra stuff here, so that you can kind of turn this into like, this is the merchant's like area, right? He's the big merchant in this space, and this is like his entire living space. Yeah, just like a lot of stuff here, right? That we can. It's almost a shame that it's like tucked away, because I know that people spent like a lot of time making those look good as well.
Yeah, I think it would have been nice to have those spill out a little bit out from under the cover there, and maybe just use those as like foreground elements. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is all just like tiny little nitpicky stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh, we got some.
There we go. There you can
shots.
see a nice one. Okay.
Yeah, look at this. That stuff is awesome.
Yep. This is also like a really good composition-wise. Nice wagon in the background. Nice use of all the assets in the front.
Yep.
It's cool.
Just also nice colors, right? Just like a nice vibrant color palette. It's looking really good.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because in that shot, because it's probably lit slightly, like the lights are shining on the red, it draws, even though it's red in an orange environment, it draws your attention a little bit. Whereas in the rest of the shots, because it's probably not as like clearly lit, it blends a little bit more into the environment, and you don't focus on the red canopies as much.
Yep. Yeah, that's also where the depth of field comes in, right? The depth of field sort of blends everything together even more. Yeah, that's a really good point, though. Oh, look at this!
There we go. This is what I like to see.
I haven't seen this yet. This is awesome. Yeah, like these potions are amazing. Especially like we said before, right? You can just like reuse them, just scale them up and down, and you got like a nice little set of potions.
I can't remember who it was that said it, but for those potions, I think someone might have set up like a material that you could just like change those gradients and those colors. I don't know if it was in engine or in Painter, but that's also like one smart material sets up your gradient for all your stylized stuff. Then you've got your potions done. That's also really clever reuse. It's not assets, it's just like getting you to the finished stage.
Yeah, I think it was Nikita that did it. So that it was just a gradient, so you could churn out the assets faster, rather than having to like hand paint each one.
That's awesome. That's also clever reuse, right? Because up until this point, we've been talking about just asset reuse, but that's a really good point to bring up. It's just you can do the same thing with textures too. It just maybe if we I think we saw it in Eric's post, right? Like these textures, it might not fit the scene, but you could just like change the color of these and then have like a different one, or maybe have one with like more broken pieces in it that you can blend with vertex paint. And that, because you already set it up in Designer, probably, right? Just making an assumption here.
I think they were.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just like a couple of additions to like a Designer material, and you have something completely new that you can blend between. It's like also just really smart to do with like a challenge like this.
Definitely. I think people are probably noticing the theme now that you need to work quite smart to get like something of this quality done in a month.
I was also thinking that that's maybe something we should like emphasize in the future, because like I said with Team 2, like it looked very cohesive. All the materials looked like they were either made by the same person or they were just sharing stuff really well. So like maybe having like a library, not a library, but just like some base materials that can be shared across team members and stuff. Sounds like a good idea.
Exactly. Nikita is pitching in. It was in Painter 2 smart materials for all those assets with just changed parameters.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Exactly. Really clever.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just taking this shot in because I do really like this shot. If we just have like a little look at this before we round this off. Again, we talked about this in all the other pieces, right? But just like foreground elements.
Yep.
And you have like midground and like the background is like the rocks, right? But it's just like a really nice what would you call it? Like leading of the eye that happens with the light here. This feels feels like a traditional painting almost, where you got this streak of light like pushing through the composition and like really guiding your eye to this, which is really nice.
Yeah, what I didn't realize until now is like when you look at like the rocks and the sky, they're meant to they sort of, it all ties into this feeling of like miniature. Like the background looks like someone's painted it, and maybe if you were making a miniature shot, you would just have like a painted background and stuff. And then the rocks are obviously like a not a focus thing. No one's gone in and like very carefully like with a needle sculpted all that, so they've got them bigger, bulkier shapes that so you don't focus on all the details on them as much, which helps bring all your sort of focus into that center again. It's just really nice.
That's a really good point actually, because I was talking about this too in the community, where it's it was on the ArtStation post, I think, where it's really nice to see like a GIF process of adding like lots of details to the rocks, and then at some point you're like reducing the details. I think these were made by Tom, right?
Yeah.
But it was really nice to see that curve of like, I'm gonna add details, and then there was probably a discussion within the team like, oh, let's just simplify it again. And it just helps so much, like Lloyd says, just like these cracks like more than enough to make it look like they're like nice big rocks. And then you can have like this focus with all the details down here and down here, just like pulling your attention basically down into the frame, which is really nice.
And there's also like frames within frames, like the red line that you've drawn here is like a big frame, and then you've also got the like second aqueduct and the column on the left, which is like also a smaller frame, which is now also framing the wagon.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's just like really creative use of like foreground, midground, and like background, right? Like it's when we talk about this, it almost feels like a formula. But it's like you can play with that, right? Like these two foregrounds, like Cairo mentions, like it's just a really nice addition to just have like this layering of like layer 1, you have like layer 2, which is all sort of like, it's almost like hugging the card here. It's like creating this nice curve that makes you go back to the card.
Yeah. I sometimes think we don't even know we're doing it. Like as artists, it's just we know that like our eye follows that, and we like sometimes we have to consciously do it when it's not looking right. But I think it's just something we do, and it works really nicely.
If you like move around the camera and then it looks good, it's probably because like this stuff is happening. You just might not be aware of it yet. But then like as soon as we look at it from an outside perspective, it's the first thing we would see is like how nicely it's framed and compositioned.
Scott has given us a hydrate, by the way. No, but this is stunning job, everyone. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I really love the style of this one.
Yep.
Like, I'll be honest, and I'm not a big stylized person in general, but I really do love this little piece. It's like got lovely little
Yeah.
details alongside the like more like over the top stylized things, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also the stylized team holding their own, right, against all the realistic teams, which they said in the beginning.
They have to, can't let the team down, can they?
Exactly.
There's always, I think there's only one last time, wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always more realistic than stylized teams, so.
Hopefully we'll get more in the future.
So stylized people, come on.
Yay.
We need a second stylized team.
Join us. Oh, but yeah, this
That
was
one's
really
also
amazing.
cool.
Yeah,
It is.
awesome. Yeah, we got
consider it's a stylized team. Like people always think of stylized as like, oh, you just paint the assets, hand painted assets. There's actually quite a lot of technical stuff going on in here, like with like water and blending and stuff like that. Just because people generally stereotypically think stylized is everyone just hand paints every unique asset and like you know what I mean. Whereas like there's a lot of smart reuse, and so like the things that apply to realistic apply to stylized, and just being smart and working with technical type things is just as important no matter what style you go for. So it's nice to see that sort of being shown off in a stylized environment.
100% agree.
These aqueducts are really cool because, like, if you look at all the individual arches, like, there's something interesting in, like, each one of them nearly, and that's really cool. Like, you look on the right there, every arch has, like, props inside that you can look at, or just something to draw the eye. I really like that.
Yeah, and that also comes down to blending, right? I'm assuming that's vertex paint just set up between all the materials. Just really smart to do that, right? And just because it's that extra step of like adding a layer of like handcraftedness. And this applies not only to stylized but also to realism, right? You can have everything perfectly modeled, but it's gonna feel 3D. You have to do like small tweaks, like maybe like small rotations, small offset to make it look like it's unique. Because if you look at the real world, like nothing is straight. Like everything is at an angle. Everything has like a bevel. Like you're trying to replicate that, right? Which is, yeah, a really good point. I like the aqueducts too. Just like, I mean, just the entire scene, just really nicely done.
All the shots work. It's like the composition in all the shots seems really well done. Like, you say it like normally you have weaker shots because they're showing off something else that isn't like the shot, if that makes sense. You're highlighting something, but all these shots seem to have like a really good composition no matter which shot you're looking at. It's like all angles have been considered somehow in Big Brain Land, where you can process 5 shots at once.
I think that goes for all the teams though. Like there wasn't any shots from any of the teams that I was like, yeah, this is like a shot that they just found and put together at the end. They all looked like they were carefully planned out.
Yeah, definitely. Whoever was doing the compositions and all the teams did a very good job of that.
Yeah, especially under no sleep conditions. No, this is awesome. Okay, cool. I think
that's awesome.
I think that is it for this challenge, right?
Yeah,
definitely. I think this is a really nice format, honestly. Just like discussing it and like being really open about what we think about it, and maybe helping people in the future too. This is really interesting. I think we should do this more. And also just thanks for everyone that took part in the challenges. Like we had 5 teams in total. Like even the teams that couldn't make it to the finish line. I just want to give a shout out to them too. Because they did put in a lot of work. Even if they didn't make it to like a final result, they did put in like a lot of work. So yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely amazing stuff, everyone.
Then the next challenge for those that I think we're going to try and sort out a bit more of like a clear calendar and stuff like that for you at some point, so that people can. It does say on the website somewhere about it being every 3 months or something like that, but it's not super clear. But the next challenge team challenge will be in July.
Yeah.
July. Sign-ups will start sometime in June. For those that want to take part in the next one, we've currently got a solo challenge running by Ioana.
Hell yeah.
Which is cool if you want to get involved in some sort of challenge. But yeah, the next team challenge will be, sign-ups will be in mid-June sometimes, so keep an eye out for that.
Yep. And in the meantime, we have a lot of stuff to figure out on our side.
We have a lot of stuff to figure out. Yeah,
we'll make it work. Yeah, just from my side as well, right? Like from me personally, like the chat was already saying it, but just like massive thanks to you two just for organizing it and like getting the team challenges and like also supporting all the people that took part in the team challenge, right? Just being there for everyone. So
trying.
Absolutely amazing job, guys.
I went above and beyond this time. Like I said, I opened command text at some point to solve someone's problems. Like,
yeah,
this is the problem with
source. To a programmer.
This is the problem with artist sorted source control. We can't program. We can't type lines of stuff out. So yeah, but no, like super proud of everyone that took part. Like all teams, like whether they finished or not, did a great job.
Yep.
And just well done, and you deserve any sort of credit and spotlighting that you get, because the finished environments are absolutely fantastic and should be worthy of anyone's portfolio. Hopefully I'll get some people jobs and stuff if they've not got a job, assuming they apply for a job. Insider jokes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if no one participates, we don't get like good results like this. We don't get more people participating down the line. So at the end of the day, it's really just the participants that make this as successful as it is. Like we put in some work behind the scenes, but not nearly as much as the hundreds of hours you people put into your scenes. So yeah, 100%. Just to reiterate, like, congrats to all of you guys.
100%. Totally agree. All right.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for all being here. This was a really nice stream. Some good chat happening. Yeah, and I just enjoyed talking about this. This was a really good time.
Definitely, I love this community so much too, man. It's a great place.
Hell yeah! Yeah, me too, man. I'm so proud. Just like with everyone, right? Like being involved with like the organization, like. I've said this so many times, Lloyd. I'm gonna put you on the spot again, but like, if you didn't come up with like the idea of like, hey, would it be cool to maybe get people together to do like a challenge, right? That's basically how it started, and now it turned into like this massive thing that like more and more people are excited about. So
exactly,
yeah, and
I just like the opportunity it gives people to create great art with. Like, we all know that the bar is getting higher and higher to achieve. Like. So it gives people the opportunity to reach that bar without having to make the entire scene, which, like we said, for Team 2, which is the most complete team in terms of hours that we've got, is like 300 to 400 hours. You're talking like, I don't know, if you spend 50 hours a month, that's like an 8-month project for someone on their own.
Like, exactly.
So, no, it's great. And I really appreciate everyone for being there. Big shout out for Tim, obviously, because none of this happens without Tim. At the end of the day, Beyondextent doesn't exist without Tim. Get some Tim Nuns in the chat or something. Tim, it's the only amount we've really got. So we'll have to add a senior Tim to the Twitch, so we can get some senior Tims in the chat.
Yeah, so people can spam it with nuns and like old people. That's great. Oh, I love this. All right. Right. Thanks everyone for being here. And thanks guys for sharing this stream with me. This was awesome.
No problem. Pleasure.
It was fun.
All right.
All right. Talk to everyone later. See ya.
Bye.
Cheers.